5 things that you need to change in your Google security and privacy settings. First of all, why should you care? Well, it's about you. It's about your information, and Google shouldn't be able to process information about you that could harm you in some way, either today or in the future. So this is really about your fundamental human rights. And the privacy legislation in Europe, for example, the GDPR, stems from this Charter of Fundamental Rights. And there are other fundamental rights. So Article 2, the right to life. Article 7, respect for private and family life. In Article 8, the protection of personal data. Everyone has the right to the protection of personal data concerning him or her. Everyone has the right of access to data which has been collected concerning him or her, and the right to have it rectified. So let's jump into the Google policy, the Google privacy policy. This is typically where you see all the information that's necessary for you to understand, what types of information are being collected by you, what's being processed and why. And so this is a good place to start. And if we go to the Google privacy policy, as we've done here, and the easiest way to do this is just type in on the Google browser privacy policy, Google privacy policy, and you'll get here. So once you click through, and you'll notice that if you've looked on other privacy policies, this is a very well laid out policy. I mean, Google have done a really good job of making this interactive and fun to use. So on the left hand side, for example, we've got all these shortcuts that you can jump to. They've even embedded YouTube videos, so it's very interactive. The UI is really good and easy to use, and they've got lots of descriptions here as well. And they've even broken it down by technology and services. So if you click technologies, and on the left hand side there's a Google product privacy guide. If you click that, you can even do it and look through via the services that you use on a day-to-day level, whichever one of these that is. And so you can go through at a very granular level. So it's a very easy to use privacy policy, and they've structured it very well. And actually, the key settings that we're going to change today, you don't need to go to the privacy policy for. You can just click on the browser, go to your name, and then click manage your Google account, and then you'll be sent through to this page here. So you can do what they call a privacy checkup. So this is one of the key areas that we're going to look at today, the privacy checkup and the security checkup as well. We're going to reference the GDPR mostly throughout this session, and there are other privacy legislations around the world. So if you're dialing in from other countries, there are some similarities with GDPR and other privacy legislations. I would say the key thing is that there are data subject rights. So me and you have these new rights to our personal information. One of the key themes that we see. So whether you're dialing in from California, India, or anywhere around the world which has its own privacy legislation, they seem to be the key themes from all privacy legislation. But for the sake of reference, we're going to mostly reference the GDPR. And personal information, so we can click that here. So we can see that this is really Article 15 of the GDPR and Article 16 in work here. So we can go into personal information and see all the personal identifiable information about us. That will be things like our first and last name, any other names that we've given to our Google account, email address, other contact information on there as well. So very basic stuff that you typically see for account information. So this is all our personal identifiable information that we can change if we like. So that's Article 16, the right to rectification, and Article 15, having access to that information as well. And the next key thing here to check is what other information does Google have about you. So go to the privacy checkup screen. And then you will be taken to this web activity piece here. So you can see what activity you've done recently. So what are the most recent searches that you've done? You can click onto this to find about more information. Click here for saving activity. So I typically have including audio recordings unchecked. I found this too intrusive. I also have unchecked history and activity from other sites and apps. I don't have any other services connected to my Google account, so this is also unchecked as well. And you can also have auto delete, which is a nice feature. I certainly would update this. So if you don't have anything on this, I would have an auto delete section. I've got mine to 18 months. You can have it shorter if you like. So the purpose of this is to delete any information, any search information about you, anything older than 18 months or 3 months. And the very interesting part about this is if you go into other Google activity, you can see you can change other activity. So now we've just talked about the web and app activity, which is mostly around the searches you've done on Google. Then we can also go into our YouTube history and make changes there. Location history, we can make changes there. I typically have my location turned off. Again, I find that too intrusive for Google to know where I am at all times. And then we have the Google ad settings. Now this is extremely interesting. So what other categories of information does Google store about you other than the personal information you've already shared with them? So not your name and all those other things. So if we click manage settings, we can see all the other categories of information that you can share here. And they know your marital status, which I've seen here as well, your parental status, and they can even guesstimate how old your children are. And this is referenced here in the categories. And all your other preferences are also here. You can turn some of those things off as well. So this is very, very interesting. So I would certainly go into this and have a look. Again, you can turn ad personalization off. So you can turn this off. And this is all the information that they utilize for advertisers. So if advertisers are looking for, people of a certain age group with a certain amount of children, these are the categories that they will choose. People who are interested in technology, for example. These are the features that they will use to be able to do personalized advertising. And you can turn that off at any stage, but it's just interesting to see what they have categorized about you, and you may want to change that for your own well-being as well. And you can go into other areas on that extended activity. So any YouTube comments that you've made, you can go and delete those. Any survey answers that you've done, what you did when you were a teenager, whatever it is, this is the digital footprint that you've left behind that may no longer represents you as a person. So you may want to go back and delete some of those things. So I would certainly, especially if you've been on Google for a long time, go into that and change some of those things as well. And then we also have the security checkup. So if we go back here, click on our browser, again, manage your Google account. We'll go to our key areas that we want to look at. And then we can go keep your account protected, get started, our security settings. And here we have our security checkup as well. And the key thing here is check your devices that you signed into. So make sure there's no random or unassigned devices accessing your account. That's kind of a key thing. And one thing I would recommend as well is keeping two-step verification on. That's a must. It really helps in terms of security and making sure that no one has access to your private information, especially if you're using the Gmail account, for example, and you're sending personal emails, lots of confidential information. Make sure that two-step verification is on and that you're using it properly. One of your key rights under most privacy legislation is your right for data portability. Under the GDPR, this is Article 20. So if we go into exporting and deleting your information, we can see here we can export our data at any time. We can also delete our Google account here as well. Another thing that's really interesting here that Google have done, if we click delete your information, they've got a section here where we can make a plan for your account. So you can decide what happens when your account becomes inactive. So there are two scenarios that come to mind when your account's inactive. One, you're no longer using Google services. You want to use an alternative service. So you want to plan for that scenario. Or two, you're in a situation where you're no longer able to activate or use your account. Deceased individuals or critically ill, for example. You can actually make a plan for those scenarios. So if your account is inactive for a certain period of time, you can start to do automatic deletion of that account. Why this is interesting is because the GDPR, for example, only covers natural persons, i.e. people who are living and breathing today. It doesn't cover deceased individuals. And there's a lot of ethical debate about what we should do with all this information that's being processed about deceased individuals. And so for Google to do that, I think is a really good thing, that you can start to plan for that situation. Thank you for watching. I hope you found it useful. We actually have done another video on 4 things that were suspiciously missing from the Google security and privacy settings. Please check that one out as well. See you on the next one. Bye.